Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brendan Lepol and you're watching Updates at Noon. Our headlines for today. PM says ASEAN members must be confident in seizing opportunities. And also, Met Malaysia issues Level 1 hot weather status. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said each ASEAN country members must be able to demonstrate greater confidence and readiness to seize the opportunities aimed at bringing favourable changes to its people and region. He said the region will adopt the ASEAN Community's post-2025 vision in the next 2 years to chart ASEAN's strategic path for the next 2 decades.
As well as improving ASEAN's capacity and institutional effectiveness, and strengthen ASEAN's geopolitical and geoeconomic footprints and assertiveness in shaping a fair, just and ethical international order. And of course, deeply encouraged by this and would solicit the wisdom of more senior and experienced leaders like you, Mr. Chairman, and friends, because I think the vision seems to be very consistent with what we call in Malaysia as Malaysia Madani.
The Premier said this in his intervention at the 42nd ASEAN Summit 2023's opening and plenary session in Labuan Bajo, Indonesia. The Prime Minister and other ASEAN leaders attended the summit to discuss several issues of common interest to the regional grouping. 8 heads of government from the 10 ASEAN member states participated in the summit. The exceptions were Myanmar, which was not invited, and Thailand, which faces elections on 14 May. Also present were ASEAN Secretary General Dr. Kao Kim Hon and Timor-Leste Prime Minister Tau Matan Ruak. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar held discussions with 4 ASEAN leaders on bilateral ties and cooperation. The Prime Minister, in a statement on his Facebook page, said he paid a courtesy call on the Sultan of Brunei, Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah, and Pangeran Muda Abdul Matin Bolkiah, and expressed his wish to see Bandar Seri Begawan's involvement in the annual Leaders' Consultation, ALC, this year, where Putrajaya is the host. He said the discussion also focused on investment, landmarking, cooperation in culture and education for the benefit of both countries. Datuk Seri Anwar also held a meeting with the Prime Minister of Vietnam, Pham Minh Chinh, and expressed Malaysia's welcome to receive their delegation to Putrajaya in conjunction with the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. The discussion also touched on the investment, apart from hoping that the issue of Vietnamese fishermen's encroachment in Malaysia waters could be dealt with as firmly as possible. The Premier also met his counterparts from Laos, Sonsei Simphandon, who agreed to cooperate more in the fields of banking, training programs for officers and diplomats besides education and the agricultural industry. After that, he met his counterpart from Timor-Leste, Tau Matan Ruak, to whom Datuk Seri Anwar reiterated his full support regarding the Republic's application to join the ASEAN family. Datuk Seri Anwar said the discussion with the Prime Minister of Timor-Leste also touched on the need to increase opportunities for cooperation in investment, trade, agriculture and food manufacturing, which demand togetherness and continued commitment from both countries. The Meteorological Department, Met Malaysia, has issued a Level 1 hot weather status for 4 areas in the peninsula and 1 in Sarawak. According to the latest hot weather data uploaded on the department's Facebook last night, the 4 areas in Peninsular Malaysia involved Baling in Kedah, as well as Hulu Perak, Kinta and Manjung in Perak. Meanwhile, the Level 1 area in Sarawak is Muka. The post added that no areas in Sabah are at Level 1. The alert level is when the maximum daily temperature is between 35 to 37 degrees Celsius for at least 3 days consecutively. The latest daily hot weather status can be obtained at Met Malaysia web portal. The Malaysian Armed Forces ATM confirmed that 5 countries will participate in the aerobatic team at the air show of the Langkawi International Maritime and Aerospace Exhibition 2023 or Lima 23, which will take place from 23rd to 27th May. Malaysian Armed Forces Chief General Tan Sri Effendi Buang said the countries that have agreed to participate in the air show are Indonesia, China, South Korea, the United Arab Emirates and Russia.
5 tahun ini daripada untuk segmen pertunjukan udara ni adalah amat meriah. Sebab biasanya kalau ada 5 negara akan buat sekali ni kan, kita boleh nampak dia orang ada semangat untuk jadi apa kata orang bertanding kan. Tapi of course dia akan observe safety regulation ni. Tapi untuk memenuhi dalam masa 2 jam lebih tu, kata orang kita akan dapat melihat sesuatu pertunjukan yang kata orang boleh menggerunkan lah. Yeah.
The Armed Forces Chief said this at ATM's Hari Raya Aidilfitri Open House at Wisma Perwira ATM in Kuala Lumpur yesterday. Tan Sri Effendi said this Limas 23 exhibition will be one of the biggest because more than 600 exhibitors from 60 countries will be present in Langkawi. Last held was in 2019. The biennial exhibition was not held in 2021 following the COVID-19 pandemic that hit the world at that time. Coming up next, 3 men arrested with firearms and munitions in Johor raid. Stay with us. 3 men, including one who is high on the police wanted list, were arrested with firearms and ammunition during a pre-dawn raid at Felda Adela near Kota Tinggi yesterday morning. Johor Police Chief Dato' Kamrul Zaman Mahmad said the 3 suspects, aged 35, 33 and 39, were detained near the Jamik Al-Ikhwan Mosque in Felda Adela at about 1 a.m. During the raid, police seized a homemade shotgun with 3 live bullets, a Beretta Gardone VT pistol, a bullet casing with 4 live 9mm bullets, a knife, ganja, and Aramin 5 pills. Datuk Kamrul Zaman said police also raided a house in Felda Tunggal and seized 2 homemade air pistols, 3 bullet casings, a bullet, and 10 marbles.
Kalau lihat pada fizikal dia, memang pistol yang betul original. Ya, manakala senjata api yang 3 laras senjata api ni kita dapati macam buatan sendiri. Tapi buatan sendiri dan peluru pun peluru hidup.
Dato' Kamrul Zaman said police will carry out investigations to determine if the firearms were used in house break-in cases or robberies in the past. He added that all 3 suspects who tested positive for methamphetamine and ganja would be remanded for 3 days starting yesterday. The tax collection showed a positive trend with daily collection recording a 20% increase this year compared with last year. If the positive trend continues, LHDN could achieve or even exceed its revenue collection target of 176.1 billion ringgit this year.
Setakat hari ini, kutipan cukai kita menunjukkan tren yang amat positif, iaitu 20% lebih tinggi daripada pencapaian tahun lepas perbandingan hari ke hari. Tapi saya yakin dengan usaha dan juga khidmat bakti tim-tim kita di LHDN, saya yakin tahun ini LHDN mungkin bakal merakamkan sejarah yang baru.
The Deputy Minister said this at the LHDN Hari Raya Aidilfitri celebration ceremony yesterday. Meanwhile, LHDN Chief Executive Officer Dato' Dr. Muhammad Nizam Sairi also conveyed his gratitude to the taxpayers who continue to maintain a good level of compliance. Asked about the impact of the increase in overnight policy rate OPR on tax collection, Dato' Dr. Muhammad Nizam said there would be an indirect impact on tax collection, but not immediately. Meanwhile, the LHDN CEO said the awareness, education and services of the AES approach introduced by LHDN would be streamlined to continuously elevate taxes as a national asset in order to increase the trust of the people. For the record, last year, LHDN recorded a historic high direct tax collection of 175.4 billion ringgit, an increase of 21.75% compared with 2021. In a foreign front, army called in amid civil unrest in Pakistan. Pakistan's government called in the army yesterday to deal with the deadly unrest in the wake of the arrest of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. At least 5 people have died in violence that has aggravated instability in the country of 220 million people as it grapples with a severe economic crisis and a delay to an international monetary fund bailed out since November. As protests rage on the streets, a Pakistani court turned Khan, 70, over to the custody of Pakistan's anti-graft body, the National Accountability Bureau, NAB, for 8 days for further questioning. Khan, Pakistan's most popular political leader, according to polls, was arrested in a land fraud case on Tuesday, prompting supporters to storm military buildings and ransack the residence of a top army general in the eastern city of Lahore. The army issued a statement saying it had shown restraint during earlier violence, but any further attacks on the military or law enforcement agencies, state installations and properties will be met with severe retaliation. Another court indicted Khan yesterday on charges of selling state gifts during his 4 years in power, a day after his arrest in the unrelated fraud case. The former international cricket star is now being held in a police guest house in Islamabad. Ukraine's State Emergency Service are clearing unexploded weapons from rural areas along last year's front line in Mykolaiv region, months after Russia's retreat. A Ukrainian counter-offensive in November 2022 pushed Russian troops out of most of Mykolaiv region and parts of Kherson. The village of Blahodatne heavily suffered from the war as it found itself on the front line for several months before Ukraine retook it. Demining officer Vladislav Hritsai said that such weapons were used to fire on military positions and vehicles. He added that Russian forces held positions in the field his unit demined. Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal said in late April about 30% of Ukrainian territory had been mined by Russians and that the government was focused on demining agricultural land as quickly as possible. China yesterday launched the Tianzhou 6 cargo spacecraft atop a Long March 7 carrier rocket to deliver essential supplies to astronauts on board China's Tiangong space station. The Long March 7 Y7 carrier rocket carrying the Tianzhou 6 blasted off from the Wenchang spacecraft launch site in the southern island province of Hainan. After several minutes, Tianzhou 6 separated from the carrier rocket and entered its designated orbit. The solar panels of the cargo craft then unfolded and began working. The Tianzhou 6 spacecraft will carry out a fast automated rendezvous and docking with the rear docking port of the Tianhe core module of the Tiangong space station combination. The launch of Tianzhou 6 marks the first space flight since China's space station entered the application and development stage after construction was completed late last year. The spacecraft has made several upgrades in order to increase its payload capacity, which means it is now able to deliver some 70 kilograms of fruits for the astronauts, double the amount of the previous Tianzhou 5 cargo spacecraft. In addition, the Tianzhou 6 also carries 1.7 tons of propellant, of which 700 kilograms will be transferred to the Tiangong space station to enable it to fire its engines and maintain its orbit. Goldman Sachs predicts European gas prices may exceed €100 per megawatt hour in the second half of 2023, equivalent to nearly 3 times the current price of €36. Samantha Dutt, head of natural gas research at Goldman Sachs, said in a report on Tuesday that the combination of winter weather risks and potentially declining conservation efforts by households can tighten balances, triggering a sharp rise above €100 in winter. Even if industrial demand may be sluggish this summer, the existing inventories cannot be guaranteed to meet the needs during wintertime. There is limited capacity for natural gas storage before the heating season arrives. Affected by Western sanctions against Russia, Europe's natural gas imports from Russia have dropped sharply since last year. In 2022, the European Union (EU) also became the largest destination for the United States liquefied natural gas (LNG) exports. The latest data provided by the UK government showed that the UK energy imports from Russia declined throughout 2022 and dropped to zero by December last year. In 2022, the UK's natural gas demand edged down 7.5% compared with 2021. The US has replaced Qatar as the UK's largest LNG supplier, accounting for half of the UK's total imports. And Alphabet Inc.'s Google is rolling out more artificial intelligence for its core search product, hoping to create some of the same consumer excitement generated by Microsoft Corp's updates to rival search engine Bing in recent months. At its annual conference in California yesterday, Google offered a new version of its namesake engine. Called the Search Generative Experience, the revamped Google can craft responses to open-ended queries while retaining its recognizable list of links to the web. Google is integrating generative AI into search as well as products such as Gmail, which can create draft messages, and Google Photos, which can make changes to images like centering figures and coloring in empty space. US consumers will gain access to the search generative experience in the coming weeks via a waitlist, a trial phase during which Google will monitor the quality, speed, and cost of search results. Google's foray into what is known as generative AI comes after the startup OpenAI introduced ChatGPT, the darling chatbox of Silicon Valley that launched a furious funding race among would-be competitors. Using past data, generative AI create brand new content like fully formed text, images, and software code. OpenAI, backed by billions of dollars from Microsoft and now integrated into Bing Search, has become for many the default version of generative AI, helping users spin up term papers, contracts, travel itineraries, even entire novels.
Is powered by our flagship Google.
Inter Milan secures comfortable advantage in Champions League first leg. That and more next in sports. The decision of Michelle Shai to resign as the Chief Executive Officer of Academy Badminton of Malaysia, ABM, is still being considered by the Badminton Association of Malaysia, BAM. Now, its President, Tan Sri Muhammad Norza Zakaria, said the matter would be discussed in the governing body's annual general meeting on Saturday. Earlier, BAM confirmed Michelle had handed in her resignation notice as ABM Chief Executive Officer following the poor performance of the national women's squad and their elimination from the SEA Games in Phnom Penh. Tan Sri Muhammad Norza believes that Michelle had expressed her intention to resign based on the policy of accountability and responsibility. At a media conference, Michelle said the 3-0 loss at the hands of the Philippines women's squad in the quarterfinals at Morodok Badminton Hall in the National Stadium was a fact which could not be accepted and required a solution from ABM's management and coaching staff. At the same time, BAM also announced that ABM's High Performance Director, Dr. Timothy John Jones, had resigned with immediate effect. And in football, Inter Milan scored 2 early goals to secure an impressive 2-0 win over AC Milan in their Champions League semi-final first leg yesterday and stay on course to become the first Italian team to win the trophy since they did so in 2010. The 3-time European champions made a fast start when Hakan Çalhanoğlu delivered a corner which fell to Dzeko, and the veteran Bosnian striker expertly fired the ball into the top right corner. Inter, who came into the fixture in high spirits after 4 consecutive Serie A wins, doubled the lead through Mkhitaryan after Di Marco served him with a brilliant pass, and the Armenian broke into Milan's box to find the net from close range. Çalhanoğlu went close to adding the third when his powerful long-range shot hit the inside of the post, and Mkhitaryan was denied by Milan keeper Mike Mignon. Milan showed more attacking intent after the interval but created few clear chances with strikes from Brahim Diaz and Junior Messias missing the target and Sandro Tonali hitting the post. Substitute Tommaso Pobega also had a late opportunity to pull a goal back for Milan, but goalkeeper Andre Onana kept out his low effort from the edge of the penalty area. It was the first time Inter had beaten their neighbours in a European knockout tie, with Milan progressing from both previous meetings, most recently in the 2004-2005 Champions League quarter-finals. Inter hosts Milan in the second leg at the same venue on May 16, and the winners will face Real Madrid or Manchester City in the final. AS Roma coach Jose Mourinho yesterday expressed admiration for Xabi Alonso's squad as his team prepares for the first leg of the Europa League semi-final against Bayer Leverkusen at home.
Quello che io dico è che la sua Bayer Leverkusen non voglio dire, magari posso anche dire, è la squadra che ho visto quest'anno giocare in Europa, la più brava di tutte a giocare in contropiede. Dopo se a Xavi gli piace un gioco diverso è un'altra cosa, però come minimo dimostra una qualità che per me è importante in un allenatore, che è il pragmatismo di cercare di giocare di un modo più adatto si dice, no? Più adatto alle qualità dei suoi giocatori.
Alonso played a pivotal role in Mourinho's success during their tenure at Real Madrid from 2010 to 2013. Together, they clinched prestigious titles such as La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Spanish Super Cup. Mourinho said that the German team ranks among Europe's finest in terms of executing counter-attacks. Despite Roma reaching the semi-finals of a prominent European competition for the third consecutive season, Mourinho dismisses the notion that it puts pressure on the team. Mourinho said it was likely key striker Paulo Dybala will not be in the starting lineup due to his injury. The return leg will take place on 18 May. And in tennis, home favourite Fabio Fognini downed Britain's Andy Murray in the Italian Open first round yesterday in Rome. Despite arriving with good form and high confidence after his title run at the Aix-en-Provence ATP Challenger last week, Andy Murray was unable to translate his form to a bigger stage as he was upset 6-4, 4-6, 6-4. Fognini gave an immediate demonstration of his timing and shot-making, striking the ball sweetly as Murray struggled badly with his own timing. The Italian closed out the first set after 16 forehand winners. Murray, however, levelled matters in the second set and looked determined to start afresh in the decider. Murray unfortunately opened the third set with a poor service game, which proved the decisive moment as Fognini shut him out of all subsequent service games to seal a memorable win. Fognini, who received a wildcard entry into the tournament, next meets Serbian 30th seed Miomir Kecmanovic. For Murray, it was his first loss in a deciding set this season after 9 previous wins. His attentions will now turn to the French Open, which gets underway on 28 May. Meanwhile, in another match, former world number 3 Stan Wawrinka shone following a rain delay at the Italian Open yesterday as the oldest player in the men's draw powered past Ilya Ivashka 6-2, 6-4 to book his place in the second round. At age 38, Wawrinka is the oldest man in the tournament, but he dominated Ivashka by hitting more than twice as many winners as his opponent, including one on his first match point to close it out in little more than an hour. Wawrinka took to the court after a 90-minute delay, but proved too good for world number 73 Ivashka once the match began, as he blasted 26 winners and converted 3 of his 6 breakpoint chances. Ye Bingwu, Christian Garin, Sebastian Baez, Alexander Bublik, Alexandra Muller and Marton Fuchsovic also all advanced following respective victories. Wawrinka, a three-time Grand Slam champion, next faces 26-seeded Grigor Dimitrov, with the winner potentially meeting top-ranked Novak Djokovic in the third round. Favourite Remco Evenepoel crashed twice on stage 5 of the Giro d'Italia yesterday before Caden Groves won the stage in a bunch sprint. Tiger Woods was not on the full field list for the next week's PGA Championship, the golf majors organisers said yesterday, as the 15 times major champion continues to recover from an ankle surgery. The entry list for the major at Oak Hill Country Club was released with the 47-year-old's name absent. Woods, who withdrew from the Masters midway through last month's tournament due to injury, underwent fusion surgery on a bone in his ankle to address his post-traumatic arthritis from a previous talus bone fracture. The 47-year-old has limited his participation in events following a 2021 car crash, which required his leg to be rebuilt. He has also had multiple knee and back operations. The PGA Championship, this year's second major, takes place from 18 to 21st May in Rochester, New York. Woods has won the tournament 4 times, with his last victory coming in 2007. The next major after the PGA Championship is the US Open from 15 to 18 June. And that concludes today's edition of Updates at Noon. In our top story, PM says ASEAN members must be confident in seizing opportunities. You tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up later at 8:30 p.m. on saluran Berita RTM. You can also stream it via RTM's mobile Click app. Till then, I'm Bernard Paul. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.